Hello everyone, I'm Brie with Do Space, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own knitting loom from things that you find around the house. Making your own knitting loom is a lot of fun because you can do a lot with it. You can customize it, you can change the size of your knitting, and it's great because usually you can find everything that you need around the house. So let's get started. The very first thing you're going to need is some kind of tube. So something like this, or I'm actually going to work with just an old roll of duct tape today. Toilet paper tools would work, or tubes would work. So would plastic cups, anything like that. Something that has a tube in it. The next thing you're going to need is some kind of tape. You can use box tape. I'm actually going to use painter's tape because that's what I have a lot of. And also with painter's tape, you can actually, after you're done, you can take your loom apart and easily reuse the pieces. You're also going to need something to act as the pegs. So that might be popsicle sticks, craft sticks. These wooden dowels, I've actually found them this size at Target in the kids craft section. So that was really nice. Pencils also work, so if you have colored pencils left over from school, that's perfect. Big markers, these also work. Things that may not work as nicely would be something like a crayon, because the crayons will break. You basically just need something that's going to be a nice, strong, and rigid. Rigid is a word that means it won't bend easily. A nice, strong, rigid peg so that you can work on your yarn. The next thing that you're going to need is obviously yarn. So this is called worsted weight. I have some yarn here that's called super bulky. And then I have this, which is just bulky yarn. So let's get started on assembling our knitting loom. So I'm going to take just this, and you can use any size tube that you want. Obviously, the bigger the tube, the bigger your piece is going to be. So this would be good for if you're going to make like a bracelet. So this would be good for that. If you're going to make hand warmers, this would also be good for that. If you're going to make a hat, obviously this probably wouldn't fit on your hat. It's a little small. So you'd need something larger if you're going to make a hat or something. Something like an embroidery hoop would be really good for making hats. So let's get started on this. I'm actually going to use craft sticks, and I'm going to need 8 of them because I've already measured. But basically what I'm going to make sure that I'm doing is that I'm putting craft sticks on this at equal distances. And a good equal distance is 8. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, and I'm actually going to tear 8 pieces of tape. And I'm going to do that before I start because it's going to be a lot easier to place the popsicle sticks after I've got pieces of tape already torn than it will be to stop each time and tear a piece of tape. All right, now we've got 8 pieces of tape ready for us to use. So I'm going to start by placing my first popsicle stick. And when you're first starting out, if you have the popsicle sticks, this is a lot easier to do because it's flat. If you do something like a pencil, you're putting a round object onto a round object. It's a little harder to get in place and things wiggle. You might need an adult's help to get everything lined up. You might need an extra pair of hands, but I'm going to put the popsicle stick down, and then I'm just going to put the tape over it. And I don't need it sticking up all of the way. I'm just going to press the tape down, and I'm going to run my fingers nice and tight so that the tape is nice and tight and my popsicle stick doesn't wiggle too much. Now I'm going to flip it over to the exact opposite side, and I'm going to try and get these lined up so that they're evenly spaced. And this is where you might need another set of hands to help you. And I'm going to place that one down. And then I'm going to continue on around the circle, and I'm going to alternate between sides. So the next one is going to be exactly in the middle of these two on this side. And if they're not exactly straight, it's not a big issue. And then the next one is going to be exactly in the middle on this side. And I'm going to continue along, placing my sticks exactly in the middle of each section. Now we're going to speed up the video here so that we can move on to the next step, but feel free to pause the video and do your steps. All right, last one in place, and this is what it looks like. So I've got my bulky yarn here. It's just something that I have a lot of yarn in my stash because I like to crochet. And I'm going to show you guys how to cast on. That's what is called when you're putting the stitches on the knitting needles, or when you're putting them on the post for knitting on a loom. So tail of my yarn. That's what the long string is called. I'm going to do about 6 inches right down the middle. And then I'm going to hold it at the bottom with my left hand. If you're left-handed, you might want to hold it with your right hand so that I'm securing it so that it doesn't wiggle around. Then I'm just going to hold it like this until I get things started. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is going to be my first peg. I'm going to come across on the right side and loop it around just like this. I'm going to show you one more time. I'm going to come across on the right side. This is my right side. I'm going to loop it around just like this. Now, if you're left-handed, you may want to loop it, you may want to go left to right. And in that case, you would start on the left side and loop it around like that. Basically, what you want to do, whichever way you go, is you want to make sure that this piece is on the outside, and the cross of the yarn, which looks like this, that's the cross of the yarn. You want to make sure that that's on the inside. So I'm going to continue around the circle. I'm going to go around the right side, loop it around, go around the right side, loop it around. I'm going to go around the right side, loop it around. And see, I'm moving my hand around, my left hand around, and I'm kind of holding things in place, and that helps me control the yarn. But I don't want to do it too tight. See, I don't want to do it like this, because it's going to be really hard to get the loops over the pegs when I need to. So I'm kind of keeping it loose. You can see in here, see how this is loose? See how this is sagging a little bit? It's not super tight. You want to keep it kind of loose, because otherwise you're not going to be able to knit. So continuing around. Continuing around, continuing around. There we go. Now I'm back where I began, and I'm going to go ahead and start my next row. So I'm going to continue around just like I did, and I'm going to end up with 2 on each peg. Continue around, get some more yarn out here. There we go. Continue around. When you're choosing your tube, it definitely helps if you can get something that maybe you can get your hand into, because that kind of helps you control the tension. That means how tight the yarn is. That helps you control the tension of the yarn. All right, that's our last loop. We now have 2 loops on every single peg. This is what it looks like in the top. So now I'm going to hold my yarn with my thumb, just like this, so that I hold it tight. And just for the first one, I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to make sure I kind of hold it tight as well. So I'm taking my tail in the inside and I'm just holding it with my finger, and you might need my fingers, you might need an adult to help you with this. So very first stitch right here, this is going to go up and over. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on every single one of these. Up and over, up and over, up and over, up and over. All right. And then I'm going to kind of push things down, and we're ready to start the next row. And again, I'm going to start on the right side, wrap around to the left, and I'm going to do that on every single peg. All right, now when I hit my desired length, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more row. I'm going to make sure that this is fairly loose again. So I'm going to take these first 2 stitches and I'm going to knit them normally. So this is going to go over and this is going to go over. And then this is going to move over here. So I moved the second stitch over to the first stitch. And then the first stitch is going to go over the second stitch. And then all the stitches are going to move to the second peg. So now I have the first peg is blank. Then I'm going to knit normally. I'm going to move the right stitch over to the left. This stitch is going to go up over, and then this is going to move over here. You can kind of see we're beginning to have a finished edge. So I'm going to do knit normally. I'm going to move right to left. The stitch is going to go over, and then it's going to move right again. This is the last stitch. It's going to go over like this. And now you've got 1 stitch left. And you're going to cut your yarn. And just pull it into place. I always like to go and tuck it back in to form a nice loop. And there you have it.